Okay, wow, you weren't kidding about this deep dive, huh? Software documentation, presentations, even a whole podcast episode in here. This is quite the mix on regulatory reporting in Africa.
Yeah, it's not exactly a light topic.
Definitely not light. But it is fascinating, and judging by this stack of material, it's a landscape full of challenges, especially in Africa, right?
Absolutely. One of the biggest things we kept seeing is that in Africa, especially, so many institutions are still relying on manual processes for regulatory reporting.
Oh, wow.
So we're talking mountains of paperwork, constantly changing regulations, which I know is hard to imagine.
Right.
It's a ton for these institutions to keep up with,
Especially with limited resources.
especially with limited resources. You really get a feel for that in this podcast episode, actually. They
Yeah.
use this analogy of like trying to navigate a maze blindfolded. Oh, I like that.
To kind of illustrate how complex it is.
And stressful. One wrong step and
Exactly. And that's actually a really good point because Digital Sand, the Moroccan startup we were talking about,
Yeah.
they develop software specifically for this, and they emphasize how big of a deal non-compliance penalties are.
so it's not just about like a small fine.
No, these penalties can be crippling, especially for smaller institutions.
Wow. Okay, so the stakes are really high then. What are some of the other challenges they're facing?
Well, on top of just the sheer volume of data,
Right.
the regulations themselves are complex and they're constantly evolving.
So it's not just a lot, it's like a moving target.
Exactly.
I'm starting to understand why they call it regulatory reporting and not regulatory relaxing.
Right.
This all sounds incredibly challenging, even overwhelming. It is, and honestly, this complexity creates a major barrier to entry, particularly for smaller institutions.
Because they don't have the manpower.
They just don't have the people or the resources to keep pace with these demands.
I see. So that's where RegTech comes in, like a beacon of hope in this sea of paperwork.
Exactly.
Okay, so tell me more about this then.
So RegTech, or regulatory technology as it's formally known,
Gotcha.
it leverages innovation to streamline and simplify compliance and data management.
So less paperwork, more digital.
More or less, yeah.
So it's like having a digital assistant to help navigate that regulatory maze.
I like that. That's a great way to put it.
So it's not just about making things easier then.
No, it's not just about convenience.
It's about freeing up resources. So
Exactly. Think about all the time and energy that gets put into manual reporting.
right.
RegTech has the potential to free all of that up.
So what? They can focus on other things.
Exactly. Things like strategic planning, risk management, really thinking ahead.
Instead of just trying to keep up.
Exactly. And crucially, it allows them to focus on expanding their services to reach underserved communities
Oh, like that.
because they have the time and resources now to devote to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not just about compliance.
It's about creating a more inclusive.
a more inclusive and robust financial system for sure.
Right, right. Okay, that's a great point.
That's really the ultimate goal.
So RegTech can really be a game changer for these institutions,
It can, yeah.
freeing them up to actually serve their communities.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, though, right?
Right, and that's actually what's so interesting. There's this wave of innovation, especially from startups, who are creating these really flexible tools that can be tailored to specific needs and budgets.
Which makes sense because obviously every institution is dealing
But
with.
everyone's got their own unique challenges, yeah.
Speaking of which, we were looking at Digital Sand earlier, the company behind the Fires software.
Yeah.
Their materials go really in-depth on some of those features.
Yeah, they do.
Was there anything that stood out to you?
Honestly, a lot stood out to me.
Oh, good.
But one thing that I thought was really cool was their focus on data automation.
Like, how so?
So we're talking about pulling data from various sources, cleaning it, formatting it for reporting all automatically,
Oh, wow.
which minimizes human error, obviously.
Right, because we're all human.
Exactly. And it frees up so much time for these institutions.
So less time wrestling with spreadsheets, more time for strategy.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And the reporting itself is streamlined, too.
Oh, how so?
Well, imagine real-time reporting dashboards that give you an instant snapshot of your compliance status.
Okay, so you don't have to wait for like a monthly report.
You're not waiting weeks or even months for reports to be generated.
It's like having a continuous feedback loop instead of just a yearly checkup or something.
Exactly.
Okay, so you can see any potential problems right away.
Right. So you can actually address issues proactively instead of scrambling to play catch-up later.
Yeah, that's huge.
And this real-time aspect, it's especially crucial in Africa,
Yeah.
where those regulatory landscapes can change really quickly.
Right, you have to be able to adapt quickly.
Adaptability is essential there, for sure.
That's so key.
It is.
Being able to just pivot when you need to.
Yeah. And it's not even just about keeping up with the regulations we have now.
It's about what's coming next.
Exactly.
Which reminds me, actually,
Yeah.
we're talking about regulators embracing technology, too,
Oh, right.
with subtech.
Yeah. Supervisory technology.
It's like the other side of the coin.
It is.
So if RegTech is the toolkit for institutions,
Yeah,
then subtech is the toolkit for regulators.
exactly.
Okay, so what does that actually look like in practice?
So basically, it's about giving regulators the same kind of advanced tools that these institutions are using.
Okay.
Data analytics, risk modeling, AI, even
okay.
all of that.
So they can stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly. It lets them monitor the entire financial system in a much more sophisticated, proactive way.
Instead of just reacting to whatever happens.
Exactly. They can actually anticipate and mitigate risks more effectively.
Which is crucial.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially in emerging markets.
Especially in places like Africa where things can change so quickly.
Right. So it's really a win-win then.
It is.
RegTech empowers institutions, subtech empowers regulators,
Yeah.
and ultimately it creates this more resilient, inclusive financial system.
That's the whole idea.
I'm so fascinated by all of this.
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff.
It's really making me rethink how I view regulatory reporting.
Yeah,
It's not just about numbers, it's about people.
exactly.
It's about creating a financial system that works for everyone.
And technology, it really has the potential to make that happen.
Cool. This has been an amazing deep dive, I have to say.
It's been far.
I've learned so much about the complexities, but also the incredible potential of what's happening with regulatory reporting in Africa.
It's a really exciting time for sure.
It really is.
And it's something that deserves a lot more attention and understanding than it often gets.
100%.
Because the impact is huge.
Absolutely. And for anyone listening who's as intrigued by this as I am,
Yeah.
we encourage you to keep learning and exploring.
There's so much out there.
There is. And as you delve deeper into this world of RegTech, its impact, think about this.
Yeah.
What other innovations might we see in the future? And how can we, all of us, ensure that these advancements benefit everyone?
Those are the questions we should be asking.
They really are.